Welcome to this episode of Sunny Silver Linings. Sunny's guest today is Michael Einbinder-Schatz. Michael is the president of Jobecca Technology Group. With over 30 years of IT experience, he refers to himself as an accidental entrepreneur. Michael walks us through his leadership journey in learning to embrace the willingness of being wrong and how expanding outside your comfort zone is the key to long-term success. And now, your host, the founder and CEO of IT by Design, Mr. Sunny Kayla. Over to you, Sunny.
Michael, thank you so much for joining me today. I am super excited about having my Sunny Silver Lining conversation with you today.
It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today, Sunny, truly.
Thank you, Michael. I always enjoyed our entrepreneurial conversations, our leadership conversations. It could be, our journey in India, that 1 week or 10 days that we took together and spent a lot of quality time in the mountains, to seeing all these different places, and had the opportunity to talk to you about your entrepreneurial journey. And it's always very energizing for me. And even here with the Build It, so you sharing your wisdom, your experience, and I'm really excited about sharing your journey with our MSP peers and other leaders in this world.
Well, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you, traveling to India last year. It really was just a year and a half ago. I say last year, but it feels like a lifetime ago. And Build It was just such a wonderful event, so reinvigorating and so focused on the educational side of things. It's really hard to not take a lot away from an event like that. And I just want to thank you for that. You mentioned our entrepreneurial discussions. I'm sort of an accidental entrepreneur. I fell into this. I went to film school. I didn't intend. I touched a computer once or twice in 4 years, or when I was at Temple University back in the early to mid '80s, and then I found out a few years later, when I was working for a videotape distributorship, when they computerized, because everything was by hand, that I had an aptitude. And suddenly I was doing some software consulting, and then I went and worked for a law firm. And I just decided to go out on my own I went out on my own in 96, but I had started moonlighting, supporting clients in 95. And everything was just sort of accidental. I had been a software trainer originally at the law firm, and then I became a network manager. I really preferred the training because I worked with people. Yeah. And then I worked with, we had 900 users, 6 locations nationwide, and I was running IT. And that meant a lot of 3 a.m., middle of the night, trying to get things working. It's just not my strong suit. But when I went out on my own, I was working with a lot of the lawyers who had left and started their own firms, because attrition is really high at law firms. And I found that I liked that. I found that I enjoyed working with people and small organizations to make a difference in a very short period of time, which in a larger environment is harder to do because the wheels turn more slowly. And from that point, I've just sort of grown the business organically, at times in fits and starts. I am not a classic business school person. I've learned everything through the School of Hard Knocks and through a affinity with and devotion to personal and professional development. And I think you could say I am where I am now in part because of what I've gone through, and also the things that I've sort of avoided going through. And I don't always mean that positively. I mean that, one of the things I know we'll talk about a little bit is comfort zone. But sometimes, I think Gary Vaynerchuk talked about this, that he's utterly fearless and he loves what he does. And so if you get stuck in a mode where you're in your fears, it puts a much lower ceiling or on how you can grow, and or constrains you in terms of time, how long it takes to accomplish things. So there's been a lot of pros and cons over 26 years, and I'm just really thankful continually be learning and growing.
Yeah, no, and you see I didn't know that origin story or the beginning, and it's great to hear that. And my kind of overall learning from what you just shared is that if you have that big dream and you work hard, then anything is possible, right? So at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is all about the opportunity and problem solving or creating value for others, right? And you
Right.
don't, so this is a great lesson for a lot of our next generation kids, my kids, that you don't have to go to school to do something. If you really want something, you are so committed and you have passion for that, then you can get into anything. And it will take that dream and hard work and commitment to build that capability, and you can be successful. So let's stay there with the journey, Michael. And so what are the key learnings? So you have so much experience, you have so much wisdom, and you have done it without going to school. So I'm sure that you have learned so much. So what are the key learnings that you want to share with other leaders and other entrepreneurs?
Well, I think the first one is a takeaway that I've drawn on many, many times, and I referenced it a minute ago, which is the whole concept of the comfort zone. I sat down with my first business consultant, gentleman by the name of Scott Messer. I started working with him, I believe, maybe in 2005 or 2006. And we went to a diner near me and sat down for like our first session together. And he took the paper napkin that you would find at a diner and flipped it over. And he did this drawing for me. And I'm not going to bore you with the drawing, but it was basically 3 circles, concentric circles. And he labeled them, comfort was the innermost one, and uncomfortable, and then fear. And he talked about the zones, and you can go on the internet and find a million models of this, and they have different names. But back when I worked with him, the internet hadn't been invented yet. No, seriously, it was a while ago. So here I am looking at the back of a napkin, and he said, it's all about taking these forays outside of your comfort zone. In other words, our comfort zone is where we live. And if we stay there, what's uncomfortable is always going to be uncomfortable. And what's scary is always going to be scary. But you grow by taking these little trips outside of the comfort zone, doing what you have to do, something uncomfortable, and then you come back and you assess. Yeah. And when you do that and you see that it didn't kill you, maybe you make some mistakes, you learn from them, then something really interesting happens. The comfort zone expands. And to absorb some of the uncomfortable. And then what was scary, the true fear, now becomes uncomfortable. Yeah. But the horizon never ends, Sonny. So beyond that, there's new things that you could not have imagined before that are now the scary things. And if you just proceed that way, following a simple formula of doing uncomfortable things and then coming back, uncomfortable, come back, you will continually be expanding and growing. Now, I will tell you honestly, I haven't always followed that. Yeah. I get into my fears, and sometimes I want to hunker down, and play World of Warcraft. I don't really play World of Warcraft, but you know what I mean? Do something that is productive. But when I followed that model, all the good things that have happened in my business and my life have been as a result of doing uncomfortable things. So I think that's a key takeaway. It's something that I've talked about many times. I've given presentations on it because I feel so passionately about it. Something I've been playing with recently is about the subject of candor. We have a core value in our company at Jobecca Technology Group of complete candor. Like, we want to be people not afraid of delivering straight talk, bad news if we need to our clients, but also more importantly, internally. We need to be candid with each other. Now, if you take that as I just presented it, it's just a word and it has very little meaning, and people turn off when they hear this stuff enough. I think candor without some interlocking pieces like responsibility, accountability, creativity, and a team spirit can be fatal. So, like, I'm always cultivating complete candor internally, which means give me feedback if you don't agree with me, because I'm an idea guy, I'm a visionary, and that means I'm going to have about 95 bad ideas out of 100. You know, like, that's okay, embrace that, but you need that feedback. But if people give you the feedback and they don't do it in a responsible manner, or they don't bring their creativity to bear, like, I don't agree with you, I think this is a better way, here's why I think this is wrong, how can we make this work? If people aren't accountable to their ideas and take responsibility, then it's just people criticizing each other and getting their backs up. And I think there also has to be an ownership on my side, because I'm cultivating the candor. And one of the pieces of feedback I got from my team several years ago was that, you know, Michael, you can project a certain amount of defensiveness at times. And I was like, what? Who's defensive? What do you mean by that? But seriously, I had to really stop and think about it. And I realized I probably do that if I'm hearing it from people. And if I do that, then I'm not going to be cultivating the candor that I believe is so important. So I think those are all interlocking pieces. And then I guess the other thing that I've learned, and this is a more recent thing, but I just love this one. I'm always looking for these kinds of messages. So my family on my mother's side is from Russia, came over, you know, in like 1913 or 14. And when I was a little kid and we traveled and visited my family out in California, where most of them lived, I learned that my family was from Georgia, the Georgia region of Russia. And I was like 6 or 7 when I learned this. And this is just something I knew. I always knew it. And about 5 years ago, we had some family in and we went out for Chinese food in Philadelphia with my mom and my son and some cousins, and we're out. And we're just talking, and I happened to make mention of this. Like, well, you know, of course, we're from Georgia, ... whatever we were talking about. And my mom gave me one of these looks where, you know, like, I don't know if you own a dog or have owned dogs, but, you know, when they tilt their head to the side, like they don't really understand what they're talking about. So my mom gives me this look, and she goes, what do you mean? I said, well, we're from Georgia. I remember, you know, Tante Elke, you know, and she goes, we're not from Georgia. We're from the Ukraine. Our whole family's from the Ukraine. And my uncle was there, her brother, and he's like, yeah, Michael, we're from the Ukraine. We're not from Georgia. And I was like, but I knew we were from Georgia because I had known it for 45 years at that point, right? It had to be what I knew. And I was faced with something a little more recently, a couple of years ago in my business, where I absolutely knew I was right about something. And all the feedback I was getting from my team members was tilted head dog luck. And they were saying, you're wrong about this. And I was, maybe I was getting defensive, right? And it just hit me in a moment that it was like, wait a minute. For 45 years, I was wrong about where my family was from because of some twist of memory, which is certainly not infallible. And maybe I need to embrace my wrongness. In other words, embrace the fact and understand the fact that I could be dead wrong about something, and just own it and be willing to explore it. And at that point, when I just let go of that, in that moment, we got a much better solution to the problem we were trying to fix internally at the company, because I stopped holding on to something I was wrong about, and it allowed creativity to flow, more candor to follow. And I got a topic that I've now been able to talk about internally with my team and also with other business leaders such as yourself and other people in the industry, because frankly, I think it's a message that isn't talked about a lot, is particularly, a lot of people who own businesses are, on the disc profile, they're high Ds, my way or the highway. They're not really going to embrace their wrongness very easily. And that's okay. I just think it's something that should be heard and pondered at the very least.
Yeah, those are great insights. So what I'm hearing you say, Michael, is that being able to make bigger choices and get out of your comfort zone, because what appears to be that uncomfort zone for you today will be a norm if you take that chance and get there. And today's uncomfort zone will be comfort zone if you really take that, make that jump. And the second is being able to speak straight. And if we want to, that honesty, that transparency, and respect is all good, but when it should not be at the cost of not being able to speak straight. And the third piece that I heard you saying is that embrace your wrongness, and that is, with this your background that you shared. So let's get into the number one a little bit more. So let's talk about, the first one, which is today's comfort zone or uncomfort zone will become comfort zone tomorrow. So what do you mean by this, right? So one thing that I, even from my experience, I totally agree with that, and I'm in alignment in terms of, if you remember from my Build It talk, that if you are a startup under $1 million and you are, let's say, under 10 people MSP, and 20 people MSP is like uncomfort, that, okay, I'm going to be like $10 million. It's going to be totally, like, it's scary. But when you get there and that's the norm, then you are operating on a day-to-day basis in that zone, and it's like, this is normal. But at the, when you start thinking about any bigger project, any that next level thing, which is audacious, is, big, hairy, audacious goal that you talk about in the EOS, then if you take that chance and really commit to that. Having that confidence, right? Having the confidence to make that choice, and then being committed to that choice will help you build that capability that will be a normal, that will make it a norm. So can you talk to me a little bit more there from your business experience perspective, that do you have any example where it was so difficult or very uncomfortable situation that you have faced, and you took that, you made that choice, and then it became a normal thing?
Well, I can. When I first started the business, I provided direct service to all of our clients, which made sense. I mean, I just, went out on my own and was calling people I knew and getting referrals. But I knew that I didn't like providing the direct end client service. I also knew that that wasn't my strong suit. I had certain skills. I mean, I've done my share of engineering work, but it wasn't what I wanted to be doing. And I could not see how I could grow that. The thought of bringing in even a single employee 26 years ago was scary to me. It was outside of my comfort zone. And what I was able to do pretty soon after I hired my first and then my second, so this is going back to 99 and 2000, was I weaned myself completely off, in fact, off of service delivery. In fact, I often joke with my clients, I'm the guy who goes to lunch, with the client and talks to them on a strategic level, which is much more enjoyable to me. I love learning how a business operates and what makes them tick, what's important to the leaders of, of our clients. rather than trying to figure out why this won't talk to that, or this service is down, or password reset. So, but another example is one that we're just in the middle of right now, which is simply that because we've had some staffing challenges lately, and who hasn't in this industry, I am having to redefine who I am. I always took pleasure in being the guy who retained staff. I had my primary engineers average 15 or 16 years with me. So an incredibly high level of retention, customer service. And I lost a couple recently, including losing one to burnout, somebody who just wanted away from the industry. Mm-hmm. And suddenly I'm having to bring in a pretty good percentage of our team as new people. Mm-hmm. And it's forcing me to redefine, and I had to think a little bit. Something I learned from Jack Canfield is, when you get bad news, or what seems like bad news, always ask yourself, where is the opportunity in it, that something better is around the corner? Or if you're not sure what it is, you just keep asking yourself that. And I realized that we are right now positioned to reinvent ourselves as a service organization. And in order to do so, some of these personnel changes, while painful, allow us a lot of freedom. The opportunity is that we have the freedom to do things exactly the way we want now, not the way we did them starting when I was hyper responsive to every client 25 years. You can't be hyper responsive and scale a business. Yep. You can't treat every request like it's the most important thing. If you do that, you're only going to grow to a certain size, and you're going to have a lot of headaches, and I have a lot of headaches. So that's something where it's forcing me right now to be out of my comfort zone. I'm operating out of my comfort zone a lot. And because of my belief in that, I know that we're going to see, 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, we're going to see tremendous results as a result of that.
Yeah, no, every problem is an opportunity. Every bad news is there's always silver lining, right? And,
right.
Yeah.
A good name for a podcast.
Just imagine, Michael, if Steve Jobs, look at Steve Jobs, what he has created. And one thing I tell my team, Michael, is that it's not going to be easy for you to work with me. Please understand that. It's not easy to work with any entrepreneur, because entrepreneur's job is to look for things that you see things before other people see it. Right. John C. Maxwell will say it, right? It is our job, and it's not easy for anyone to work directly with an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs are ambitious. They have bigger dreams. They want, they have their commitment to move, and their job is to move that organization forward. And it takes similar disciplines and work ethics to work with any great entrepreneur. It could be Steve Jobs, it could be Bill Gates, it could be anyone else out there. So I think it's like a two-way street. And again, it's a mutual responsibility of the entrepreneur and the leaders that are in your core team. And what Larry Little mentioned or shared, Michael, last week was trust. Becoming that entrepreneur of trust or leader of trust. I think when trust is there, that having that uncomfortable conversation, that if Sunny or Michael will bring some stuff from any, the new shiny object, that team we have trust with each other, that we can call each other out. We are able to speak straight and really let the greater idea win, or let the greater good win. And that's what, I struggle with the same thing, Michael, and struggled a lot more in the beginning of years when I just didn't know what I didn't know. I thought, my team, I just can't win with them. Whatever I'm bringing in, and they're saying, okay, no, Sunny, no more. We don't want to do this. And it was such a frustration that, okay, I want to go aggressively. I want to move forward, and my team is holding me back. But then slowly it was more of my fault, because I was not creating that environment where the psychological safety was there, the overall collaborative way environment was not there. when I changed my approach and team, now they do this more often with me, and I'm still learning. There is, I'm still learning to be less defensive, because when I am like, what do you mean you can't do this? Still, and then I will caught myself. Oh, no, Sunny, I should not be doing it. If I really
Right.
want to provide psychological safety, I should not be doing this. Then, yeah, but we are human beings. At the end of the day, as long as we are committed and we are intentional about having that collaborative way culture and stuff, where visionary can do his role effectively and team can do their role effectively, we're all aligned with our strengths and becoming good team members and pleasant to work with each other. It's a journey, it's a process, and
It is, and I think some of the difficulties, some of it's inherent to our industry. I think it was Robin Robbins who shared a really great slide, one of the best I've ever seen,
Yeah.
which she showed the brain of the owner.
Yeah.
Sorry, but she showed the brain of the owner and then the brain of the team member, which in IT companies, of course, is engineering focused.
Yeah.
And engineers are pretty much predisposed to say no. Like, they want to measure not twice, they want to measure 5 times and cut once. Whereas we get bright, shiny object syndrome and let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. The secret sauce is in finding that middle ground, giving the psychological safety net, as you're saying, so that people feel like they can be candid, not getting defensive, and honoring that they may be keeping their eye on the things that are most important right now and finding that balance. So maybe I have a bunch of ideas, but what's the one that's most important to the overall business right now? Is there one that we can do next quarter or next year or whatever it is? And then I always tell my team, you have the ability here to speak out on any of these things and we will discuss it. But once the decision is made, we all have to row in the same direction or we'll get nowhere. And that's an important thing I discuss up front. I mean, I've been doing some hiring, and making sure, do you feel like you can contribute in that way? Even if it's not something you prefer, can you get on board with that?
Absolutely. And you might have met Michael at Build It. Marcus was there from Collaborative Way, and that's something we have been using. And this is one piece that I keep at my desk. So I showed you another one and now this one. And these are the 5 practices that we are very intentional about practicing and getting better and better as a team. And so which is in alignment with what you're sharing there, is that am I listening generously? Am I speaking straight? Am I being for everyone? Am I honoring my commitments? And am I sharing acknowledgements and appreciations? These are the 5 questions that we keep in mind, just to kind of remind ourselves every day with this one pager, because it takes that practice, man, and being intentional and practice. And it's you can always get better with these 5 things. And I know, Michael, you are a thought leader and you are an award-winning speaker and you have written, you're an author as well. If people want to learn more, from everything that you have published so far, your speaking engagements, where can people go to find more resources? I know you have a Simplify IT to 23 years to 7-figure. You are the author of those 2 books. And so where can people go? What are the resources available online and how can people find you?
Well, our Jobecca website has a ton of information that's helpful to learn about me, learn about the company, obviously. I also have my personal website is Einbinder-Schatz, EINBINDERSCHATZ.com. Interestingly enough, that was an easy site to get. I can't imagine why. But all kidding aside, I just love sharing information with people. It's a journey. It's a continuing journey. You were talking about Marcus, by the way. I just want to share that I thought that Marcus and Declan, right, the two folks on the collaborative way, I thought their session was one of the best I've ever attended at any event in years and years of going to events. So I want to thank you for that. I just really, really terrific content.
Thank you, and people can find you on
I'm sorry,
LinkedIn.
can I give you our website is jobecca.com. It's Jobecca. That's the first two letters of Joshua, who's my son, and the last five of Rebecca, my daughter. That's what the company's named for.
Yeah,
so
and we will share the link with the video to your website.
Wonderful.
And I think no wonder, Michael, we get along really, really well, because you are you're a true go-giver. And I heard sharing so many times from you during this session and always when I have this conversation with you. And we truly believe in sharing is caring mantra. And you will see it in our events, in our overall day-to-day, that our way of life is all about sharing what we have and really helping this world become a better place for our next generations and workplaces, especially that I'm very passionate about. How can we make workplaces a better place for life journey? And we are well aligned there in terms of our business philosophy there, and that's probably one key reason that because of those shared core values, we get along really, really well as partners. And thank you so much for coming to my podcast and sharing your wisdom. Very, very valuable insights. I truly appreciate your time.
Thank you, Sonny. It was a pleasure.